Yes, how beautiful. Thank you, Deborah. Let me just clear my clutter here. And then I'm going to talk about trains this morning. Do y'all like trains? Yeah. I love trains. I'm like a kid when I see a train. I just want to sit and watch all day. You know, we lived out west for a while with these wide open spaces, and you could see the trains going forever. And they're just such a beautiful sight. And I love the sound, especially at night when you just hear that sound faintly in the distance. I think it reminds me of adventure. I'm a Gemini, so you say the word adventure, and I've got my suitcase packed already, you know. Someone once said railroad tracks take my eye up and around the corner, somewhere out of sight, to destinations both known and unknown. That excites me. Some people that would scare, but to me it's exciting. And then the trains I really like are the snow trains. Have you ever seen the snow trains with the plow on front? And in a blizzard, you know, the snow trains have to go clear the tracks because no other train can follow on the tracks until that snow train has cleared it. But the trouble is you see those snow trains, and when they do that, all that snow just comes back on them. They get the brunt of it. It reminds me of the first toboggan ride I ever had. Did this happen to you, where you had a friend that said, oh, you've got to sit in front? That's the only place to sit in. And of course me, you know, I was such an adventurer. Oh yeah, I'll sit in front. And I came out of it looking like a snowman. Surprised I still talk to that person. Anyway. Our generations, the reason I'm talking about that, especially the snow trains, I feel like our generations, which includes everybody here, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, we were like a snow train that first generations to come into this planet for the planetary transformation, to clear those old beliefs, to clear the old paradigms, to heal the old wounds. And we've been taking the brunt of it. I mean, some days doesn't this get to be a little exhausting? Like we've been doing this since the harmonic conversions, you know, when's it going to get over? Where our parents, you know, their generation was after World War II, they just came to stabilize everything. Where the next generations came to clear it, and then that can look really messy. But look at all the helpers we had, and you recognize how old I am by the helpers that I look at. Every generation had a different set. We had Walt Disney. We said, dream another world, dream and imagine something better. John Lennon, imagine another world. Jim Henson, live harmoniously with all people, no matter what race, color, creed, or sexual preference. And Mr. Rogers, treat everybody kindly. You know, we came in with those ideas. This is what we want this new world to look like. And I can just see me on the other side being told that the universe was looking for souls that would go down to Earth to help with this planetary transformation. And I could just see me. Can you see yourself on the other side? I'll do it, just like I'll sit on the front of that toboggan. And then you get here and you see what that feels like, getting the brunt of that. And it's like, oh gosh, oops, all together now, oops. We didn't know what that was going to be like, did we? Like the old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. Oops, oops, it sounds nice. Just like being on the front of that toboggan. But those of us leading the way in that planetary transformation, that got all that stuff in our face. Anybody triggered lately and had all your stuff in your face? That's just that brunt of releasing old stuff and clearing the way. It takes transforming all our old beliefs that we've been denied, deprived, persecuted, and abused. The Course of Love says, all wounds are evidence of your belief that you can be attacked and hurt. You know, I used to believe that. I lived in fear of that. I almost didn't want to go out of the house some days. It's dangerous out there on the front of that toboggan. Until I read the book of Revelations. Lock the doors, Brandon. We're going into the book of Revelations. Now, I might have bit off more than I can chew today. And if it gets too intense, you're welcome to take a nap. I used to do that when I was sitting out there going to church. But if you stay awake, you might learn something. The book of Revelations, why are we going there today? Well, if you look at chapter 12, it reads like science fiction. And it's called The Woman and the Dragon. Ooh, already sounds fun, doesn't it? And it goes like this. Then a great and mysterious sight appeared in the sky. There was a woman whose dress was the sun, and who had the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was soon to give birth, and the pains and suffering of childbirth made her cry out. Wow. Well, we know that in unity, instead of reading this literally, we take it metaphysically. This is something happening in me. Every person, place, and thing is an aspect of my consciousness. So what does this mean to me? Well, the woman is the divine feminine in all of us, that creative feeling nature that receives and births that higher consciousness. And the sun and moon is that mystical marriage of the feminine masculine, the head and the heart, the thoughts and feelings working together. The sun being enlightenment, and the moon that intuitive understanding, all coming together. And the 12 stars around her head is that higher, richer vision we have of a higher life experience. And then the pangs of childbirth. It can be painful giving birth to that because we have to die to the old ways. We have to face our stuff and walk through it. We have to clear that track. And our generations have been right in the front, taking the brunt of it. And just when we think the transformation is happening, a dragon appears. Have we not had some dragons in the past, recent past? Another mysterious sight appeared in the sky. There was a huge red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and a crown on each of his heads. With his tail, he dragged a third of the stars out of the sky and threw them down to the earth. He stood in front of the woman in order to eat her child as soon as it was born. Wow. What does that mean, huh? We have to interpret this metaphysically, literally. Has anybody seen a dragon out there lately? It sounds kind of fun. Well, the dragons are those human tendencies of our ego to fight back when we're faced with all our stuff, instead of releasing it, walking through it, and healing it. And the 7 heads are traditionally the 7 deadly sins. Did you all grow up with the 7 deadly sins? I'm sure there's much more than 7 of them, but see if you find yourself in any of these. I know I found myself in one of them. You'll know it when I get to it. Here they are: anger, lust, sloth, avarice or greed, gluttony, here I am, pride, envy. Again, there's probably more than 7, but have you found yourself? We humans go there, do we not? And the 10 horns, well, let's start with 5. 5 are the 5 senses. So 10 is the 5 senses doubled. When we're at war with ourselves, we can't see the forest for the trees. And here's why. You know, the 5 senses are real strong in the Bible. And because through our senses, we experience what we call reality. We see the errors of others through judgment. We hear and listen to gossip, criticism, negativity. And smell, what is smell? Well, have you ever heard the expression, I smell a rat? You know, we get suspicious and paranoid. Taste. Life can turn distasteful at times, especially when our feeling nature, when we're oversensitive and thin-skinned. Anybody recognize yourself again in all these? Charles Neal, who wrote the book Revelation, I believe it's out of print. It's a wonderful book that metaphysically interprets the whole book of Revelations, said the dragon symbolizes humankind at our worst. Our own fears, doubts, uncertainties, our poor self-images, and our sense of unworthiness. Old wounds are buried deep, and as long as we keep denying the pain and blaming others, oh, it's got to be them doing it to me, it can't be moi. As long as we keep denying that instead of allowing that pain to come out, releasing the pain, healing it, it's just not going to help heal it. Now, I don't like that any more than you do. Being in front of the toboggan is never fun. But the woman is the divine feminine that is open to feeling the feelings in the heart and willing to feel the pain and release it, knowing it's just birth pains of going to that higher, greater life. We have to release all that old stuff first. But she had help. Verse 7 and 8, she had help. Then the war broke out in heaven, and Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, who fought back with his angels, but the dragon was defeated. Now Michael, I'm not saying Michael the Archangel doesn't exist. We all love Michael the Archangel, don't we? I'm married to one of them. But Michael, metaphysically, is that inner divine power, that conquering power of spirit that we have to conquer and overcome anything we're going through, even the chaos right now in the world. And all the angelic help, whether you picture them as actual beings or that inner presence of the Christ in all of us. Then she was able to birth her son, that inner divine nature that we're all trying to birth collectively together. But first, she had to transcend those wounds and make peace with the emotions, move through the anger into peace, lift the sadness into joy, release the pain of things like betrayal, and learn to trust again. Don Miguel Ruiz said in the book, Beyond Fear, we would transcend into our divine self by the Divine Mother birthing us back into heaven. And that's exactly what's going on, those pangs of childbirth. And we're leading the way still. It takes time. So when we feel the brunt of it all, we have to remember we chose to be here altogether now. Oh darn. Oh darn. We chose to come to clear our heart of those old wounds, to feel and release all those old wounds, and to birth that new planetary consciousness. And we have all the help we need. The angelic realm, that realm of our higher self, of our divine nature. And all we have to say is, use me, use me. And we have all the help that we need. So we receive that inspiration, we receive the strength in the silence where we just sit and be still and know. In the midst of the chaos, we are still and know the truth of the presence. In the midst of the chaos, we are still and know our divine nature, and we allow that grace and that love to flow in and through us and out into the world collectively. Let us take that into quiet, silent prayer and allow that lifting. There is no effort, only allowing that higher nature to take us through it, above it, beyond it, with grace, with ease, releasing and letting go, continuously releasing and letting go, and trusting in where we are being led. And we just say, thank you, God, in the nature of the Christ. And so it is, so it truly is. Amen.